It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire, joined today by Henry Nickel. He is a council member in the city of San Bernardino, which is doing much better. Congratulations.
We are on the road to recovery, finally.
Which is so nice because 3-4 years ago, we saw the bankruptcy filing. But more important than the bankruptcy filing, I remember going to Carousel Mall, and it was just empty, and there was just a real malaise. And I feel as if, in some ways I look at your SB Strong button and what a horrific tragedy that has brought your community together. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that out of the terrible tragedy of December 2nd, I think it pulled our city together in a way that we hadn't seen in a very long time.
Right.
And I think it has contributed to a sense of strength and underlying optimism that we can pull through. And there was a high degree of malaise in the city when we declared bankruptcy. I think there is now a sense that the city can recover and will recover.
The challenge becomes, though, that when we look at the recovery of San Bernardino, and this is not unique to San Bernardino, that the recovery is uneven. And throughout Southern California and throughout California, we are seeing a proliferation of homelessness like I have never seen. And what's so unique, sir, about this proliferation is that we are seeing homeless neighbors in places we never saw them before.
Yeah, we are still suffering from the detrimental impact of the last downturn, economic downturn. And the Great Recession is still very much with us, and certainly in San Bernardino, we're sort of the canary in the coal mine. We have still among one of the highest rates of poverty of any major city in the United States. And then that coupled with the fact that we have one of the higher rates of homelessness per capita in the region does not help things. It's depressed our property values. It's made our recovery from bankruptcy that much more difficult. And so in this, as we start moving out of bankruptcy and toward a confirmation of our bankruptcy plan, we now have to take a very serious look at what has been a 2-year strategy up till now to address homelessness in the city and whether or not that's working.
But when you look at the statistics, they don't lie. California has 21% of the homeless population, yet we have 12% of the US population. Your friends in LA County, #1 homeless population in the entire nation. It used to be New York. We're now the homeless capital of the world. LA, their chronic homeless problem has gotten so severe that it's up 55% in just 2 years. Even our friends in San Diego County, these are 2 counties that you perceive to be wealthier. They're just getting hammered.
Yeah, and there's several factors. I think over the last couple decades, certainly the population has become much more transient and mobile.
Right.
We do see individuals. This was one of the discussions we had 2 years ago when we discussed our current plan that we have in place, was the fact that a good proportion of our homeless in San Bernardino do not have roots in San Bernardino. They have moved here from other parts of the region, from other parts of the state, from other parts of the country.
It's the weather.
Yes,
beautiful weather.
It's beautiful weather. It was stunning to me. I was in Las Vegas a few months ago, and to see the number of homeless in that city as well, compared to just a couple years ago.
Beautiful weather.
Is stunning, and it is true. I think, and then that coupled with changes in terms of the way we're addressing some of the more at-risk populations, especially in the state of California. Recent passage of laws such as AB 109, Prop 47, individuals that were historically incarcerated, albeit for crimes that were not necessarily violent crimes, but they were incarcerated, are now out on the streets.
And
there is a challenge getting them reintegrated into society.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it does beg the question. You know, we had a U.S. Supreme Court rule that our prisons, our state prisons, were unconstitutionally overcrowded. So we did see the passage of AB 109, which sent lower level offenders from state prison to county jail. Then the county jails got overcrowded. And so we saw some early releases, whatever that may mean. Then Prop 47 passes, which reclassifies felonies to misdemeanors, some at least. And so we saw people not winding up in jail. It does feel as if that's where our society is going. We kind of, the pendulum is swinging away from mass incarceration. But part of AB 109 and 47 was looking at rehabilitation programs that are or are not kicking in yet.
Well, we haven't seen it at the local level in San Bernardino. Now, there are some successes around the state, but I think it is still, we're still at the very early stages of assessing the relative success of these laws. I get a mixed bag of comments from our local law enforcement in terms of what is working, what is not working. It is by and large an experiment, and I think it's incumbent upon local leaders in cooperation with our state leadership to assess, again, what's working, what's not. But clearly there are deficiencies, and we are seeing the fact that, you know, there is this idea that there's perhaps it's humane to put individuals that would otherwise be incarcerated out on the street, but in my view, there's something that's somewhat inhumane about that too.
And what can become doubly challenging is that these individuals will often be diagnosed with mental illness, with addiction, and if we can even get them in a program is one question, but some don't even want to be in a program. They're service resistant. And so they would prefer being in the riverbeds than being in a hospital bed.
And that's the debate we're having in the city, is what is the best approach? When we first enacted our current Homeless Intervention Action Plan, which we passed in June of 2014, we assumed that we would be able to differentiate between individuals who had roots in our city that could prove residency, and then address those who did not, by having a divergent approach to applying services. So in other words, if you could prove residency, you would get more services than if you could not. But what we found in practice is that there's a whole litany of laws that prohibit us from taking that course of action. And so the real question is, if we continue to provide services at the rate that historically we have in the city of San Bernardino, are we simply serving as a magnet for the region, attracting more homeless into our city? And we currently, we outpace the second largest, we are the largest city in the county. Second largest city in the county has only 1/6 of the number of homeless, Fontana, of the homeless service operators that we have in our city. So there is this question. It was a question that we grappled with in 2014. Having this proliferation of services, does this serve as a magnet?
Does it?
And well, and that's the question that a number of us have posed to our city manager, and we are now in the process of evaluating the relative success of that plan, and whether or not, in fact, we are seeing a magnet effect, and what effect that will have on future decisions regarding any future homeless operators in the city.
Okay, come back. I want to talk more about this.
Sure.
His name is Henry Nickel. He is a council member in the city of San Bernardino. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're coming to you from the Inland Empire on Charter Local Edition. It's brutal, but it is that whole map.